And the stream should be starting. There's lag, so we're waiting.
Yep.
I'm waiting for you guys in the chat room to tell me when you can hear us and see John and myself.
Oh, I see an ad.
They can see, and they can, hey, there we go. Look at that. Some people have ads, some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait about 30 seconds, folks, before we actually begin. Let the ads get through. And don't worry, I won't run any of them while we're doing this. If it happens, it's Twitch, not me.
Yeah. That's fine. It doesn't bother me, obviously.
Hold on, guys. There we go. All right. It is on.
At least you have it. I can't see it.
I can see it. If you guys don't have sound, you might want to check your side because everybody else can hear, right?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Yeah, they can hear. We got to make sure. You always got to test. Well, hello and welcome everybody to MMORPGcom's interview with systems designer John Peters of Guild Wars 2. John, welcome.
Hey, thanks.
Anything you want to say to this rowdy bunch before we get started?
Yeah, I'm enjoying reading the comments on the side of the stream.
Is that going to distract you, or are you not going to be able
to... That's probably actually, I'm going to just do that for 45 minutes.
Let's just read the chat, and then we won't have to talk about professions or traits. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Let's see. LMFAO. I don't like them. They're a terrible band. Okay. Let's move on. Well, let's just dive right into it, because I know we actually have a limited amount of time. First, we'll start with a couple of my questions, and then we'll get right to the questions we picked directly from our users at MMORPG. Okay, so, John, tell me, what are the driving design philosophies behind creating Guild Wars 2's professions? They seem very different than what we're used to.
Wow. Okay. So...
In 30 words or less.
I would just say versatility is the number one thing. We just try and give them kind of play styles rather than roles. So, we talk a lot about how we don't think you need to have fixed roles, and we want people to play together and actually have team play and not be dependent on each other. So I think the main thing is we look at them and try and figure out both from like a just immersion or like lower standpoint, what are the archetypes we want, and from a gameplay and like play style perspective, what are the archetypes we want. And I think a lot, I've seen this said a couple times now, that a lot comes down to like, it's not just the professions. What we really try and focus on is like this profession and this weapon together, because that actually determines a lot more about what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in general then, when it comes to the encounters, what is the team's approach into balancing these classes without the sort of Holy Trinity design? And then conversely, how does that differ when you guys go to balance those classes or professions in PvP?
We don't really try and do it too differently until problems arise. There are some obvious things like, AoEs that are pulsing AoEs. Tend to be a little bit more effective against, AI than players. Especially the better players, you won't see them standing around. So there's some of that, but our basic approach is to look at a couple of things. There's kind of two things that make a skill useful. One is how good is it at actually doing what it does, and then how versatile is a skill. So, for instance, Eviscerate, one of the highest damage skills in the game. So it doesn't need to do a lot of other things, because you're going to want to bring that, if you want to hit like as hard as you can, like that skill is necessary, So it's really easy to get a sense of what you want out of that skill. Then on the other side, you have skills like Savage Leap, which you can use to close on people, you can use to run away from people, you can use it to jump over gaps in terrain.
Or to just look awesome.
You can use it to do damage. So it's just, you lost me, you said?
I said it's just to look awesome, too. You fly.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's not my fault, though. So, so basically, I think it's just about looking at that and then looking at, the overall build of the weapon and what are the tools and how do they work together. In Guild Wars 1, it was a lot of you build these tools to work together, kind of like a puzzle where there's, all right, I'm going to have a thing that knocks a guy down, I'm going to have a thing that does damage to a knockdown guy, and then I'm going to have another thing that knocks down. And so you just kind of build them all together and it kind of created very, very distinct stuff, but it forced you a little bit more into a rotation. A lot of these games are a lot about like skill rotations. Yeah. It's like I do 2-2-1, 2-2-1, 3, 2-2-1, 2-2-1, 3. Because it's built that way. And I think that what we try to do is make it so that you're actually thinking about and like looking at the game and saying you can't just like Savage Leap. You don't just hit it when you need to hit it. Like you only hit that when you need to get away, when you need to chase, when you need to move over something. And so the decisions are a lot more organic, I think.
Okay. So it's not really necessarily about balancing stat-wise. It's more about balancing functionality.
Yeah, I think it's about balancing what tools we give you. I think the way we built the whole system, like, yeah, we're going to have to balance the numbers, and we've been actually doing a lot of that recently. But what's more important is like making sure that everyone has a purity, like the weapons have purity of purpose, that there's diverse tool sets in each weapon, but that there's also if I bring a sword warrior, I'm giving up mace, and like that means I can't do this, and I need to play this way when I bring the sword. We talk about this a lot because a lot of people try and say like, well, what build are you going to bring to counter their build? And there's some of that, and more of it than there is in most games, so maybe a little less than there is in Guild Wars 1. But like the main thing is how well do you use your tools that you brought?
Absolutely.
And mastering those. So.
Okay, excellent. Well, and then in that case, let's get right to the community's questions, because I'm sure they're going to want to know the stuff that they actually asked. The first one, right off the bat, is from a user named Death Angel with 2 L's. He or she, I guess, said, since every profession has the ability to heal, is it safe to assume that there will not be a profession which has Mortal Strike or the heal reduction ability?
Well, it's actually not. So how we do heal reduction right now in the game is there's a debuff, Poison, which degens you but also reduces heals. So anyone that has access to that, which in some way everyone does just because of our cross combo system, but those are the people who we want to be able to debuff that healing stuff. So we do have access to that, but it's a little bit different. Like I said, our debuff and buff system is very pared down. So there are literally, I think, 11 debuffs that are common, which are the conditions, and 8 buffs, which we call boons. And that really helped us to like narrow down the balance. So we know when someone is applying that healing debuff, they're applying poison. They're not like one guy's got Mortal Strike, one guy's got something else, and something else. There's not like this huge set. We know what a good poison is. A good, a 5-second poison is strong. A 3-second poison is medium. And so we kind of have these numbers all set. So when we go to balance skills, we can just look at things and say, oh, this is doing an 8-second poison. That's, really, really strong. And why are we doing that? And what's the cooldown of the skill? And it's really easy to, it helps us to kind of narrow in on balance.
Okay, excellent. Then let's go right to the next guy then. His name is Kev Shoot It, I think all one word. Is the trait system being balanced for builds that want to spread out points across as many trait lines as possible? Or is it better to specialize in one? Or will both be viable?
We've seen so far that both are viable. You kind of have this thing where people talk about, like, why are there the attributes and why are these things mixed together? So the nice thing we get is when you want to max out attributes, you have to specialize in lines, right? So if you want to do the most damage you can do and pump all the way into power, you need to specialize that line, spend 30 points in. But when you open up that first major trait slot, you've got all 12 choices available to you. So there's a sort of a sense of diminishing returns of major traits there, where the first one is the most important one because you pick the one that you want the most.
Okay.
And if you don't want a second one, it starts to deter you from going, at least 20 points into the line, and then certainly 30 if there's not a third one that's going to synergize with your build. So there's this kind of back and forth game of how many points do I want to spend, how many lines do I want to get? Oh, I see, like, I want a major trait from each of these lines because I could see a build that kind of goes between all of these together, but that means I've spent 50 of my points. So the most I can do now is maybe max out one other line, and then I don't want to do that because it turns out this other line, 5 points more, gets me this minor trait I want. And you just start making all these decisions.
And how easy would it be for somebody to go back and mess around with it and change it again?
Well, so like we've said, in PvP, you literally just press a reset button and then you pump the points back in. In PvE, it's super cheap cost. You just go to this NPC and respec. And actually, out in the field, you can still respec your major traits. So one thing I know people have been talking about on the forums is like the whole, there's this major trait that's sword only, and I switch away from sword, and I still have this major trait. Well, the major traits you can switch out the field, so that concern really shouldn't be a big deal to anyone. On top of that, I think we only showed, no, we didn't show every major trait in the last build, and so people have their lists and stuff, but actually every line's going to have 12 of them, and even a good 30% of the ones we showed are now gone and have been replaced by better ones, and we generally try and make a good like 50-50 split of specific ones that are, hey, this one improves this weapon or this type signets, and 50% of them are, this is just a general thing that you're going to want no matter what, and it just kind of is a build defining thing. And so there's so much choice there that, if anything, I think the only thing is people are going to be overwhelmed by it. But
that's a good thing, though. More choice, the better. Okay, well, the next question comes from a guy named Ema Cacao, or Ema Caco, E-M-A-C-A-C-O. I'm not even going to try. It's kind of a long one, so bear with me. With the latest information about attributes, there has been some concern that the attributes may overly influence which weapons you can effectively use together. For example, a Mesmer with a greatsword would seem to benefit mostly from power, while a Mesmer with a staff mostly from either malice, expertise, or concentration, depending on their focus. So, here's the question. What if you want to play a Mesmer that uses a greatsword in one weapon set and a staff in the other? Would you be less powerful than a Mesmer using a greatsword and a sword and offhand because they both benefit highly from power, and you have to split your attributes between different focuses for the different weapon sets? Whew!
All right, well, it's a really, really, really good question. So, but luckily I have an answer. So one thing is, people look at these trait lines and I do this too a lot, and we always have to retrain ourselves. You don't look at it and say, what trait line am I going into? It's more, where am I spending all my points? You spend 70 points, and a trait line only has 30, so you absolutely have to spend points in at least 3 lines.
Okay.
So, to some extent, it rarely comes up that this is the case, but that's not, and that's a really important thing to know when you're thinking about building traits, is like, you don't think like, I'm going down this line that's going to give me power, I'm going warrior strength. Like, that's not how it works, right? You generally are thinking 3 to 4 lines, I'm going to spend max out 2 and do 10 in another. I'm going to go 20, 20, 20, 10, and so you're generally thinking more along the lines of, how far am I going and which the minor traits and the major traits define the builds more. Okay. And so the second point I'm going to make is that the attributes, you already have a really good solid base amount. So if you're going condition damage, you can get condition damage bonuses from your gear. You can get condition damage bonuses because you're just level up. And so your condition damage isn't going to be determined just by putting traits into condition damage. So if you have one of your weapons that's really condition damage heavy, but you only put 10 points in, you're missing out on, a few hundred points of condition damage, which is maybe like 5% damage there.
Okay.
But, you're giving that up because you want to get, when you give that up and you're full power, it's not like the weapon that does conditions only does conditions. It still attacks and does hits. So like the points you're putting into power there are then helping that too. It all just kind of ends up blending together pretty well. You don't really see these forced weapon combinations. I think more to the point that I was saying earlier, you don't go into a weapon because you can squeeze like 3% DPS out of it, right? You go into it because it has tools that you need. And that's like what the whole game is founded around. Like, it's not about like, what is my DPS meter and am I meeting this meter? Because half of the time it doesn't matter because you just got like, kicked and you're flying across the map and now you're not fighting anymore, right? Or like you get thrown around or you're knocked down, or I've put everything into all my compassion, and so I'm trying to get a little bit more, squeeze a little bit more healing, and now I'm covered with poison, and so it was pointless and I really needed more condition removal. Like, it's all about tools and like building this tool set for your character. So
it's a little less about minning and maxing then.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is. Like, don't get me wrong though, there is min-maxing going on. You still try and squeeze that power out, but not at the cost of the versatility. Like, the first thing you do is, like, the first choice I always make is like, what am I trying to do with this character? What tools do I need? And then it's like, okay, how can I squeeze more power or whatever out of this based on my choices? So.
Okay. Very cool. I hope that answered his extremely awesome question.
Yeah.
The next
it was
one
a great question, though.
Yeah, it was. The next one is from a guy named Marius with 2 A's. He asks, do you have a favorite trait build that you want to share with us? Maybe something unconventional?
So it depends on where I'm playing. I have a really fun warrior trait build. I know people have asked about this trait, so I might as well say it. Like, there's a warrior trait that makes your shouts heal. They are AoEs. It does an AoE heal. It doesn't like make them into healing skills and trigger stuff that healing skills do, but it does take advantage of your that attribute. So there's a warrior banner that improves that compassion attribute. So in World v World, I like to run around as basically a like mace shield warrior with a couple of blocks, kind of staying in the back lines.
Mm-hmm.
I bring out like a longbow when we need to do extra AoE damage, and then I run this trait, and then when I see people in trouble, I can move in and use my heals, like my shouts as heals. They're not as strong as, being a healer in a regular game, but it's like I use my shouts to kind of be this support warrior and like move to parts of the battle where people look like their health is low. So that one's been a lot of fun. And then, then if you take the one that's like reduce shout cooldown, and then I take another one that's like a get benefits from having extra adrenaline, and then because of that I think, okay, I'm going to bring the one that makes my shouts also give me adrenaline, and so I just it starts to kind of build from there. So you always make like these initial decisions about, you focus, like you pick a focal point, and then like things kind of fall out from there.
Something you're comfortable with doing, and then you learn how to kind of twist it and mold it to fit situations.
Yeah, and the best thing is, right, this is going to take a while for people to get over, but like, well, your first reaction when you see a warrior is like, don't attack that guy, because warriors are tanks with high health and high armor, and so when you play that guy as a support guy, people don't attack you, right? Because they think like, oh, it's a warrior, don't attack him. Like, let's go find some squishy guys and hit them.
Note to self, roll warrior.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of fun to try and play against type, because it messes with people's first reactions. Like, this is especially true in PvP, obviously. Like, I like to really like go super earth elementalist, right? Because people see Ellie's and their first reaction is like, all right, spike him down, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna immobilize you and knock you down in an earthquake, and what are you doing now? Like, and you're just beating on me, and I'm like got these shields up, and it's just, so I like to play against type just because I think it messes with people. So
I would say that fits the role of unconventional, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I really like to do, one other build since I'll throw it out there, is I really like having a lot of mobility. So I've been running, I'm going to use warrior again because I play warrior all the time. I run like a sword shield and a great sword warrior. So the great sword has like a big charge attack, like a spinning attack. On the sword you have like savage leap and then the block. So I'll literally just harass people with that mobility. And it's like, we need someone on the other side of the map, bam, I can be over there super quick. And then if I'm in trouble, because I built myself kind of low, really low defensively by doing that, I use my shield block, I block, and then savage leap out of there, and then spin, like you're back out of the fray again. So that was a lot of fun too.
Interesting. Okay, well the next one is also from Marius. We have 2 right in a row here. He says, my friend loves the sneaky thief archetype. How would you tell him to trait his thief, and which skill should he use? Are there many possibilities for a sneaky person, or is it kind of out of the question?
I mean, there are. You can definitely go extreme with it. There's a heal that cloaks you. There's a couple of utilities that do it. So you can definitely go pretty extreme. And there's some traits, like every time you steal, you are cloaked. It just kind of goes on. And so you can definitely play a very sneaky thief. And then you kind of want to focus on positioning-based stuff because you're going to be able to get in those positions. That thief is a lot of fun right now in World v. World because... someone was asking about this somewhere, but like stealth is really, really good there because one of, at least for me, my favorite things to do in World v. World is like wait for the Zerg to go by, find that last guy, like immobilize or cripple him, go in like just with a small group, finish him off, stomp them out, and then just like escape as fast as you can. And then by the time his group realizes he's gone, they have to like come back and res him, and then they go and you do it again. You're basically just harassing this like big group of people. Sometimes they aren't even communicating enough, so you can just kind of like slowly whittle that group down, and then it's like, okay, this group of like 20 that ran by, there was like 5 of us. We've cut them down to like 10, and some of them are leaving, and so then now you like jump on them right while they're not prepared for it. And
nice.
Especially you ambush them with a little arrow card or a ballista, and it's a lot of fun. So.
Okay. Well, the next question comes from a guy named Gara Zap. Is there going to be any counter professions? For example, if a thief sees a warrior guardian in a group or solo, he might think, hell no, like you were just talking about. Warriors can counter me, I leave them alone. Is the trait system spec going to have such an impact that if you spec nothing into armor and vitality, warriors will be squishy too? I mean, I think you kind of answered that, but it seems like every class can go either way.
Yeah, there's definitely, there's some, right, because that's what makes them different from each other.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it's definitely hard to tell. There's a couple of hard and fast rules. Like, Guardians have this passive Aegis, so if they haven't been in a fight in a while, like, every time you fight a Guardian, you have to think, like, my first attack is not going to go through. My first attack, and, like, if you aren't thinking that, like, you make that mistake of, like, leading with some, like, big armor debuff, and it's, like, blocked. And I'm like, oh. Oops, I do that all the time. But you have to kind of start thinking about that. Like with the warrior, it's specific when I'm with the guardian. If I have longbow, I always lead with my dual shot because it's like blink, block off the Aegis, and the second arrow even actually goes through, right? So you're like, all right, I already did half damage, and then like now that thing's gone. So I tend to versus guardians use like I switch to the weapon that I have that attacks faster, just because of the Aegis. And versus LEs, you tend to switch to the weapon that hits harder because they'll maybe block an attack, but when they don't have their blocks ready and you throw that big hit, like it hits them hard, Yeah. So I like to use a lot of AoEs against the thief because they have all that mobility, and if you just kind of hold your ground and drop your AoEs, they have to come into them, and that's when they start taking damage. So there's choices you make like that, but it's not nearly so set in stone.
Yeah, it's not like a rock, paper, scissors situation.
No.
Okay. Next one's specifically about Necromancers from Rojo6934. They ask, will Necromancers be limited to a couple type of minions like in Guild Wars 1, or will they be able to summon a wide variety of demons, maybe even tame and control demon types mobs?
All right, well, so right now there are 6 minion types that you can summon. There's the Blood Fiend, which is kind of the healing one that heals you, and then you blow him up and suck his life back. There's Bone Minions, which are kind of like the little scrappy guys, and you can blow them up and Putrid Explosion them. There's a Bone Fiend, which is like kind of ranged minion. There's a Shadow Fiend, which is kind of this like smoky, cloudy guy. He does a lot of blind stuff. There's a Flesh Worm, which is actually more like a turret, and it just holds in place. And then you can actually blow him up and like teleport to where he is. So I tend to use him like he's ranged, right? So you like put him in like the back of a fight, and then you go in, and then if you're in trouble, you can blow up the Flesh Worm and fly back there and get escape, right? Because he's attacking for you anyway since he's ranged. And then the last one is Flesh Golem, which is elite only, and he does. He's got like just a ton of powerful attacks, and like he cripples guys and knocks them over and stuff. So
okay,
and that's what we have right now.
Yeah. So there's a lot, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's 6, right? And they all we try, like I said, it's about purity of purpose, like giving each one like an actual tool set, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me, I played the engineer in the first beta event, and I was overwhelmed with how many different things there were to do, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, engineer is definitely that profession that everyone is like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And like even myself, like it's just not my thing. Like I obviously, as everyone can tell from this thing, like to play warriors, but like I have a hard time like getting dragged away from my engineer because there's just something really fun about like, you know, some of the stuff you can do.
Okay, the next question comes from Rathar. Previously, it was mentioned that traits would be acquired by completing tasks specifically designed for your profession, such as an elementalist finding and studying tomes or a warrior competing in a challenge of strength. But this has been replaced with the current trait system where you gain trait points every level after level 11. I was wondering if there are any other events, challenges, tasks, or quest-like objectives that were profession-specific now that this feature has been changed. If so, could you give us an example?
So when we removed those, what we actually did is converted them into the skill challenges.
Skill points.
The stuff like the jumping puzzles, the stuff like the naked Norn who's bathing in a hot springs that you have to, he's wearing nothing but a loincloth, he punches you. Like we turned it into that stuff and we kind of merged them all together because it just created more content for everyone rather than like, you know, there obviously is a limit to the amount of content we can build, and we'd rather have everyone be able to experience all of it, not like, oh, that cool Norn that you can fight, you can't fight him unless you're a warrior.
Absolutely.
So we kind of just merged them all into the skill challenge system, and that's kind of where they are.
Which are really fun because each one is something different to do and unique. I like it, and there's a little story with each one too.
Yeah, and we get to use the bosses in those really to kind of teach people about different stuff in the game. Like there's a guy who all he does is like bounce around and evade, and you kind of have to learn how to deal with that.
Yep.
Or there's a guy who drops big AoEs and you have to move out of them or dodge out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the next one is also from Garazap. He asked a question earlier. How do you work, we kind of touched on this, but it's interesting anyway. How do you work with balancing professions and traits? What kind of fights are they based on? Are they based on 1-versus-1 fights, or when you're talking about them, are you thinking large-scale war or smaller groups?
So the first balance stuff that we're doing right now is very, very, it's kind of heavily leaning towards the esports stuff because it's the stuff that we kind of like to lock down the balance first, and then we could start to split skills and make changes from there for PvE stuff and for World v World stuff. Sorry. So for that stuff, like we do everything from 1-on-1s to 5-on-5s, because that's and sometimes more than that, because that's our main competitive format.
Yes.
What we actually do is we play, like so on Monday, the bunch of us were on from like 7 or 8 at night until like 4 in the morning playing, you know, with people just testing out stuff, and like I sat there with like the game open on one monitor like playing and then like the tools on the other one, and it's like, okay, we need to bring this skill up a little bit, like I go over there, change it, make the change, and after we've changed like enough of them after about an hour or so, we just go and like submit it, kick off a new build, and then we're playing a little more, and then that one comes in, and it's like, okay, like let's play with all these changes and see how and we probably did, you know, 5 or 6 rounds of changes that night alone. So
Sounds like a terrible life that you lead.
So it isn't like 4 in the morning, so you know, it's not like we're just hanging out during the day. Like that's not what I do at work. I do that in my spare time, right? So to that extent, like I think the best way to test it is like in that live environment. Like we just go into that map, that 5v5 or like a 6v6 map, and we play, and we see, because you can't see if that warrior build where you can move all around super fast and be at every point is overpowered by fighting a 1v1. Like character, I fight, if I fight in a 1v1 with that character, I might as well just slash die or whatever, because you're never going to beat a good player with that straight up in a 1v1, because his strength is his mobility, right? So
it's all about ganging up on him at that point.
Yeah, so I always use that character to like, oh, peek over around that corner. Look, there's a 2v2 going on. I'm gonna like come around from behind,
start swinging,
and come like leap in, immediately like switch to greatsword, frenzy, arcing slice, like knock him down and stun, you know, and then I use my 100 blades, and it's like, melt that guy, because it's like, all right, you guys, we're on vent when we're doing this, and it's like, okay, I'm coming around the back, like, we're going to hit this guy, okay, here I come now, go, and then everyone, like, switches that target to that guy, and we, like, focus him down, right, and then it's like, okay, now it's a 2-on-1 here, I don't need to be here anymore, like, let me go find another fight that I can make uneven, because I have all this mobility.
Absolutely. Okay. Next question comes from Twitter, actually. It's from @TeamLegacyNet. They ask, how much will weapons and armor help hinder the effects of trait builds, if at all?
I mean, it's actually fairly significant. So the armor stuff, I think we talked about it a little bit, but like, it improves the same stats that are improved by traits. So if you want to min-max more, or you want to try and be a little more diverse and not go all toughness, you have some of that into your weapons. And then you have like your sigils, I think they're called, on weapons, and runes on armor, which are kind of like sets of things that you can additionally make builds with. I think someone was showing these in one of the beta videos. So basically, like, every armor set, every piece of armor has a slot for a rune. So you basically make set pieces by getting 6 of the same rune and filling one of them into each of your armor pieces. And then the last one, will give you something really cool. Like there's one that makes you revive people 10% faster once you've got all 6 pieces in.
Okay.
Or, it's stuff like that. So, you kind of make some, you definitely make build decisions based on those as well. But, like I said, it starts with like weapons, and then you kind of go, okay, how can I complement this with traits and items and major traits?
It's just a lot of customization, really, at the heart.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where it's actually overwhelming at times, even for us when we made it. And it's the reason why, there's the no more secondaries, why are the skills not so crazy complicated? Like, we took each of those pieces, pared them down to make each system very understandable and fun and interesting, so that as you're playing as a new player, you learn how the weapon skills work, and that's like your first thing you're introduced to. And when you're competent with that, like, you're competent with it, and you don't have to worry about it, and then you can start to learn another system and another one, and there are probably, weapons, and then utilities, and then traits, and then items, and then item bonuses, and then once you've learned all these systems, then you feel like we made you slowly learn each one of them. And then the really, really, really intricate strategy is actually between how they interact and how you use them in a fight,
Yeah, so it's not so overwhelming at first, but really, as you get deeper and deeper into it, you realize just how much choice you have.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how much time do we have left, actually? You got time for a few more non-professions and
Yeah, we have
questions?
time for a few more.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, let's talk about the pet AI. Forum Lurker actually asked, there have been concerns that the pet AI might be a potential problem for rangers. Is this a valid concern, or is the pet AI or pet control polished at this point?
So, if you watch videos, it's a valid concern, because right before the last times when it was really, really good and really fun, and we just never have it there when we actually show it. So hopefully this next weekend will give people a better idea of what it's actually going to play like.
Uh-oh. Got a little bit of lag.
Says that we're maybe losing the connection. I don't know. It's bad.
Seems good. I can hear you. The video is just not moving too well.
It says that the connection is not good enough for video, and it's audio only would be better, but I don't know.
Well, if we can still hear you, let's keep talking, and then we'll try.
All right, well, we'll keep talking. So basically, we made them better at following now and better at kind of responding, but then we broke their in-combat responsiveness, and then that's actually being fixed right now. So I think, like, this next couple of rounds of testing, as people see, like, they're going to be completely viable. It's just, this is one of those things that's like, why isn't the game out? Like, let me have the game. Yeah. It's like, well, we want pets to be ready. Like, we need everything to be ready. So.
Okay. Another question from Forum Lurker then. He was concerned about the lack of player-to-player trading. What are the reasons for this, and is the auction house replacing all player trading? Is the mail the only way to transfer items to your friends?
So we actually, we went through this a lot back and forth, and we basically decided we have this mail system, and we want people to be able to just use it anywhere. And as soon as we did that, it became like this much more secure way of trading, because no one can trick you with what they're sending you in a mail and then pull it back and then hit submit or whatever. Like, it's just a mail, right? Like, it just goes. And so we basically have, we decided, like, okay, like, if this mail system, it's like the equivalent of trading, only I don't actually even need to be next to the guy. So it's like trading plus, right? And then we're like, well, why would we have trading and mail thing when mail does everything that trading does, but it also lets you do it to, like, someone who's in a different map.
That's true.
Right? So
okay.
And so that at that point we're like, let's stop focusing on the trade thing, like make the mail thing as polished as we can, and ship with that.
Okay. Okay. Got time for a few more still? We're still good?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, a couple more. Yeah, go ahead and go for it.
I'm almost out. I'm almost out.
As quick as we can.
Gay in Prayer, or Guy in Prayer, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, he asks, is the underwater content as fleshed out as the land content to the point that someone could live or at least do most of their leveling underwater?
I'm not sure if you would want to do most of it, just because it's it's nice to experience different stuff, but someone could do most of their leveling by rescuing watermelons from rabbits if they want to. Yeah. It's just that if you really love it, you'll be able to spend tons of time down there. It's as fleshed out as any other content. It's just more like a quarter of the space, right? So, it's just about volume at that point.
Good luck trying to level only through water, basically. It would take a long time.
No, I mean, I think you totally can. It's just whether or not you want to experience to me, like, I just see something happening on the land. This is a whole event system thing. I don't want to you're not just going to stay underwater. Like, you're going to go see what that interesting thing is, rather than just stay there. Like, I don't begrudge anyone who wants to stay there the whole time. I'm sure if they're having fun, they can keep having fun. But, like, I just feel like I also, same thing for, like, why would you want to play the whole time on the land? If your map has a lot of water on it, like, go under there.
Of course.
If you want to, it's just that.
Plus, there's a certain fun to, like, shooting out mines underwater that spike out and attack people.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a question from Vasansky about One versus One duels. He says, is there going to be a way to invite someone to a one-on-one duel, someplace like a training ground or an arena where you can practice PvP with friends?
Okay, yeah, so we've said a little. I'll answer for people who haven't heard our real answer, which is there's not going to be dueling, like, click on a guy and duel right at ship. We'd like to be able to have it at some point, but one thing you can do, and this is kind of what we do, is because our servers are, just these, like, constantly running hot join servers, like, there's a server with no one on it. It's like, hey, let's go to that one. It's empty. We just go there. We don't kick off, like, the game starting, and we just go to pick some place to go, and we kind of fight. And it's actually in a more, like this is in PvP servers, like a more real environment, right, where it's like this map has been laid out and it's got cover and, got all the things that make it having good places to have these duels anyway. So we do a lot of our, like, test dueling by doing that.
Because you don't really need a system to do it then.
Right. So you don't need a system, but I think a system is still cool for, if you want to do it in PvE, or you want to, like, just you're out in the world, and if people want to do that, like, I feel like if they really want to, like, we should try and support it, but we're not doing it for release, so.
Okay. Well, one last question, and it's kind of a loaded one. It's from Facebook. A guy named Aiden Puccio asked, why on earth is the collector's edition $150?
I mean, I can show you why. It's right here. This is why it's $1. I don't know if you...
Oh, move it even closer. Oh, no! Of course we lose the connection right then, don't we? No! Okay. Everybody, hang tight. We're going to call John right back, okay? Just stand by. I want it noted that my connection is strong. All right, he's back.
All right, here you go.
Back. Hold on.
There you guys have video?
Look at that. The video's there. That's our
So
sign.
this
That's
is
our
the
sign
thing.
that
The
we're running
collector's
over.
edition is not about, making people pay more. It's about, rewarding people for being fans and things that they are actually excited about. So, like, here, let me just show you if I move the camera.
Oh no, that might break the internet again.
This is how detailed this thing is. It's huge. Like, I don't know, does anyone have a reference scale? This is an iPhone, and this is Ritlock, right? Like, he's huge,
And he's made of solid gold.
that collector's edition isn't about making more money. It's about rewarding people that want to have like this cool stuff. Like, here's like the detail on his armor. I mean, it's just staggering.
That's
So,
crazy.
and like this awesome sword, right? With the dragon mouth, like, it's just cool. And so to me, like, that's what the collector's edition is about. It's not about making extra money on some expensive selling thing. It's about people getting something cool because they are fans and they want to have it.
Absolutely.
We're just charging them for the cool thing we're giving them, not for just to charge them extra.
It's not even for the books or the music or anything else. It's for that awesome statue, really.
Right, and yes, he does have a fiery dragon sword. I saw that on the OMG fiery dragon sword. Yeah.
And somebody
somebody
wants them to attack Emil too because they saw him briefly there.
Yeah.
Run away, run away. Okay, well, I mean, that wraps up all the questions. I know you would probably like to go make the game so that we could all play it. I wanted to thank you, John, for taking the time out and talking with us today. And I want to thank all of the viewers at MMORPG.com right now who are watching this and who submitted questions. We'll try to do another one as soon as possible. But thank you, John Peters.
Oh, no, thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Anything you want to say to these guys before we cut?
Yeah, I'll say thanks to everyone, and we are working hard. Like I said, we were working on balance till 4 in the morning the other day. Like, we are working hard. We are trying to make this game as good as it can be, and as you all know, you're going to be able to get it soon. So that means at least start buying it soon and start getting into those betas. So.
All right, that's great.
Yeah.
Everybody, for those of you who kept getting ads or disconnected or didn't get sound, we did record the whole thing. I'll get it up on YouTube and on MMO as soon as possible. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.
I'll let you guys end by Ritlock eating your faces.
There we go. Zoom right in. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Eyes.
Thank you very much. I'm going to disconnect that now before Ritlock kills everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually, when we brought him on screen, he broke the internet, so...
All right, guys. Have a good one.